Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs. The smallest feists to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game.
I'll tell you about my first dog that my name was on. His name was Bear, and he was an awesome tree dog. He would always retrieve the squirrels when you shoot them, and if you shot a squirrel out and it hit the ground, he may come back 30 minutes later. But when he come back, he had it in his mouth waiting for you. But he was introduced to me, given to me when I was about 7 years old.
Okay.
And I guess I had him till I was about 13. Actually had a bad accident here, and he got in the middle of it and lost him. But
sorry to hear that.
He was a natural born tree dog.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd tree coons, or he'd tree a possum, or he'd tree a squirrel. But mainly what I did with him was squirrel hunting.
Okay.
I guess he weighed about 65 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I hunted him with several other dogs. He's a real good natured dog.
Good deal.
And in the cur dog family, you have to be careful with cur dogs, because if you hunt them by themselves, they don't allow another dog party to even hunt with them.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout the training part of them, you have to introduce other dogs to them if you plan on hunting with a buddy.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But he was my first dog, and I think I had that dog. It was like 1970 or 71.
Okay. So it's been a while that you've had these dogs.
Oh, I've had them all my life. I mean, I was born and raised into it.
Mm-hmm. Well, for the listeners, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Curt Ladner, and I was born here in Wilmington, same place I live on, in 1963.
And your family is pretty synonymous with the Ladner Blackmouth Cur.
Yes, and me and my daddy we hunted a lot. I have a brother. He hunted dogs every once in a while, but he always liked to still hunt, so
Okay.
He really never got involved in the dog hunting too much.
Mm-hmm.
You have to like the sport. I mean, and it is a sport. It's not like you could go steel hunting and kill 15 squirrels, and it's just enjoyable to walk behind a good dog that's working for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had them in the family for all my life, and my daddy had them all his life. And my daddy died, and my daddy was born in 1936, and he was actually brought up through some hard times.
Mm-hmm.
And
I bet.
through those times, they had the cur dogs, the Ladner Blackmouth Curs, and he said a lot of times they put meat on the table when they didn't really have the money to afford anything to eat.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, and you hear a lot of similar stories from back in those days, and how these dogs were vital.
Yes, sir. His first dog he registered was he started the registry in 1964, and it was within KC.
Now, your dogs are registered as Ladner Blackmouth Curs, correct?
They're Ladner Blackmouth Curs. We always have. In the 70s, my daddy separated the color on the breed.
Okay.
He separated yellow from all the other colors, and all the other colors stayed as a Ladner Blackmouth Cur, and the yellow ones come up as to be a yellow Ladner Blackmouth Cur.
Okay.
But they're all the same dogs. He done a lot of breeding and a lot of working to separate them.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to use the word cull, but
yeah,
if a good breeder don't use that form, then he's not a good breeder.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, calling used to mean one thing, and today that doesn't necessarily mean that you can cull from your breeding population without necessarily euthanizing the dog or putting it down.
Right. A lot of people, when you use that word, a lot of people, first thing they think of is a bullet.
Yes.
And that's not always the case. I mean, there's a little old man down the road. He lived by himself, and he wanted a companion dog, and had dogs that didn't work out, to be a tree dog. And gave it to him.
Yep.
With no paperwork. You know, he couldn't breed him. No breeding rights on him.
Yep.
But and that most of the part of my life, that's been the way I've called them, unless I have an absolute dog that just plumb crazy, you know, and that's not very regular, but it happens.
Oh yeah, no, I understand. That's kind of what I've done. Dogs that don't work out. You know, the one I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years ago, sent him to Louisiana, and he became a pretty good hog dog. So didn't want to be a tree dog, but he liked hogs.
Well, we have hog dogs, you know, but we have tree dogs too, and I don't mix those with people just because somebody's wanting a dog. You know, if he's wanting a hog dog, don't mean I'll just jump up and sell him a puppy that I have. You know, I try to match what the person wants to hunt with and hunt with the dog. And all of our dogs that we breed, they are proven.
So the one thing I find in Blackmouths, I understand you guys register your dogs with NKC as Ladner Blackmouth Curs, but then there's dogs that are not Ladner Blackmouth Curs, but are still called Blackmouth Curs.
Right.
There's a lot of Blackmouths that are used for hogs and cattle that are not very tree-minded. So,
yes, sir.
That's right. Can you explain that distinction there?
Yes. When I so-called say he professionalized the dog, he wanted the dogs to prove themselves and treeing, and it didn't at that point in time. It didn't really matter to him whether they run a hog or what. But it's sort of natural. It's sort of natural for a Blackmouth Cur of any breed that I know of to work hogs or cattle.
Okay.
You know, and it comes with them. It's all in the first 4 or 5 months of that dog's life if you spend time with him training him of what he's going to hunt.
Gotcha. So you just make sure for any dog that you want to make a tree dog, you just have a lot of early exposure to tree game then.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever successfully had any dogs that will do both?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, I had several of them. It's a fact I have some right now.
Is that common, or is that more of a rarity?
Well, it's what you let the dog do. You know, and on my place, I have hogs. I have a couple 100 acres. I have hogs, and I have 4 coons, and just about any kind of animal in the woods is on my place because it's all timber. But I actually had a good coon dog, and I started out one night with him. His name was Howie. I started out one night with him, and I didn't get probably 100 yards from my house, and he bait a group of hogs right by himself. And from there, we didn't push him away from him or anything. We killed the hog, and from there he made a hog dog. But he was at a tree dog stop.
Okay.
And he had treed coons and squirrels, but since then I haven't never hunted him that much on coons. Okay. We've hunted him a few times on squirrels, but he'll do either one. But I have had dogs, even champion dogs, and I had some champion dogs back in the 90s that you could take and tree squirrels or coons, and you could take that same dog and somebody shot a deer, blood track a deer with it. That particular dog I'm talking about was named Rambo Warren.
Okay.
And that dog won a heck of a lot of trophies through NKC.
Okay. Is that the only registry you register dogs through?
My dogs are both. I can go UKC or NKC, but it's headache enough to keep up with one registry. You know, but anybody that gets one, you know, they're welcome to go UKC it, you know, and UKC does recognize them.
Okay. I just wasn't sure how that worked.
Yes, sir. PKC said they would recognize them, but I've never dealt with it.
Blackmouths are probably one of the cur breeds that I have the least amount of experience with. I've messed around with mountain curs and treeing curs, and I have some leopards now, which, depending on who you talk to,
there are a lot of similar to the mountain curs and the treeing curs. There's a lot of similar treats with them.
I just live in Pennsylvania, where they're not a very popular breed up here, and even curs in general tend to not be very popular. So what
Right.
are more what you do see more of are mountain curs.
hmm
It's probably the most common thing up
I,
in my neck
I
of the
have a
woods.
good friend that lives in Pennsylvania, and he's had my dogs for since 2005,
Okay,
and he's put all kind of trophies on
interesting.
them. His name is Lloyd Frisbee,
Okay, heard the
but
name.
we don't have a whole lot of dogs up that way.
Hmm.
The biggest state, I guess, that uses my dogs as of right now is Florida,
Hmm. Would that be
and a
more
lot of them,
hog dogs?
a lot of them use them for blood tracking and hog dogs.
Okay. I just find the versatility in a lot of the cur breeds is definitely not there like it used to be. You know, we've
Well,
especially with mountain curs, like they've been bred for squirrel hunting more so. So even finding a good coon dog is a lot harder now than what it used to be from talking to different people.
right.
I'm not saying that you
I
can't find ones that will treat coon, but a true coon dog.
well, the cur dogs that I like besides my own cur dogs would be the Kimber curs. And Mr.
Hmm.
Kimber was real good. He is real good friends with me, and was real good friends with my daddy.
Okay. Yeah, I've
And
talked to Robert.
yeah, they were good dogs.
Hmm.
And I think they still are. I don't know much about them no more.
Hmm.
I don't really have time to fool with hunt.
Yeah.
Would love to, and I try to encourage anybody that gets one from me to place them in hunt.
Hmm.
And my wife is pretty big into it. We always have a shoulder, when somebody gets a dog from us to help them with the training part. But a good blooded dog don't take much training.
Yeah. No, but that's important, having good breeder support. I mean,
It is, and I've took calls at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. People didn't realize from being from another state
hmm
what time it was, and tried to help them out.
hmm that's awesome. Like I said, that speaks volumes for yourself and your breeding program. Because, like I said,
Yes, sir.
that's not necessarily common. Before we got started, you said your grandfather had these dogs. I mean, where did he get his original dogs? Do you know?
From my understanding, through my family, the dogs were brought here from France when my family settled in the 1700s on the coast.
Oh wow.
And I know you know yourself, and I know myself that there had to be some changes,
Hmm.
and stuff put into them
Oh
to
yeah.
keep them. But they're pretty true blood. I mean, of the same old dogs.
Hmm.
You have to breed out as a breeder. You have to breed out at one point or time.
Hmm. Especially in those
And
days when it's not like you had the internet and cars and you could travel across the country to keep a breed pure and still kind of get new genetics.
yes, sir,
Back
that's
in those
right.
days, you're breeding within a community.
That's it. And most of the time the breeder back in them days, or somebody that bred a couple dogs, they've given to the neighbors.
Hmm.
Actually, we had my grandpa had a doctor that used to come to his home and treat the kids and stuff like that. And from what I was told, that he had a dog that my grandpa had gave him in trade for a payment.
That's pretty cool. How'd you pay your doctor? I gave him a puppy.
Yes, sir.
So as far as hunting tree game, like like how do your dogs hunt?
Oh, my dogs usually hunt, and it depends on what you start them on. Like you squirrel hunting, they're hunting 300-yard circles,
Hmm.
and when they make those circles, they usually, if they don't tree something within 30 minutes or an hour, it's most of the time it's time to go home.
Hmm.
Now on big game, if you run big game with them, like hogs and bear and
Hmm.
stuff like that, some of them will range out 2 miles. You
Okay.
know, with those guys, I don't even have to have track collars here where I live and hunt. But some of the guys that hunt my dogs, there's one in Utah that hunts. He hunts mountain lion.
Okay.
He has to have track collars on his.
Hmm. Interesting. I haven't heard much about blackmouths being used for bear or mountain lions. I mean, I've heard plenty of people
Yes,
use them
sir.
for hogs, And
But
actually, the guy I got your number from, he has some dogs from you, and he actually decoys coyotes with them.
yes, you must talk with Mr. Jeremy Young.
Yes.
Yes, where's he at? Utah? I can't
I
remember. I'm friends
think
with him.
somewhere like that. It's pretty open country. I know that much just from looking at some
Yes,
pictures.
sir. He does. Boy, he loves those dogs. I mean, I see a new video every weekend of him working those dogs. He's got a little boy that's about 3 years old that tags along with him.
Mm-hmm. That's
They sure
awesome.
take a lot of coyotes out. I know that.
There's piles of them, that's for sure.
They are, and they're so plentiful here. You'll never touch them. But as far as hunting them the way he does, you have to have open prairies and stuff like that. We have a lot of thick places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of what it's like here.
Yeah, if it's too thick, it's hard to hunt something like that. You know, what happens? You call it in, and then it comes in so close it sees you.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of a dog having to keep, making them tours back and forth, bring them in close enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't even know where I would even try to decoy around here.
I thought about it, and watching Jeremy's videos excites me,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that I can't do it here.
Yeah.
Most of them I know live in places with big prairies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that really is not a sport that you would work out down south here with a dog.
Yeah.
But my dogs have been used for a lot of stuff. I mean, they've been used for search and rescue, and
Interesting.
actually that the one dog, he found several bodies. One of
Okay.
them was in the bottom of a river, and she was a very good dog. I mean, watching her work, they did allow us to come watch them work,
Mm-hmm.
and it's amazing what kind of nose they have on them.
What would you say they are compared to other cur breeds and hounds?
Well, I hate to say anything about any other cur breeds because I really don't know much about them besides
Okay.
the Kindlers.
Gotcha.
You know, I've been to a lot of competition hunts, and I've won a lot of competition hunts. You know, but they to compare a cur dog with a nose like a hound, it would be my dog.
Okay.
Not all of them, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and like blood tracking, a lot of people want the coldest nose dogs they can get,
Yeah.
and I do have some notes where some of them has jumped on a 36-hour-old track and went to the end of it.
Wow. That's pretty old, that's for sure.
That's a pretty cold nosed dog to do that.
Interesting. I just know most cur breeds tend to not be as cold nosed, so. And like I said, I just don't really know a ton about your dogs, so. Or
Yes,
blackmouths in
well,
general, so.
if you've hunted mountain curs,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably pretty close to what you think, you know, and they hunt real similar to mountain cur, and I've
Mm-hmm.
seen some of the. Now I have hunted with some guys. I got some friends that got those original mountain curs, and some of those dogs range a mile squirrel hunting, and I don't like the squirrel hunt a dog like that. I really don't.
Yeah.
Not all of them, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but I had a buddy that every time we went, we were waiting on his dog to get back to go home.
Mm-hmm. Now, I would say that's probably more of a recent thing for the most
Yes,
part
sir.
because of the competition hunts.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
the squirrel dogs are going the same way as coon dogs as far as competition, deep and lonely,
Right.
especially with the bigger money hunts and stuff like that, which nothing wrong with it. That's just kind of the way. If that's what wins, that's what people breed.
Yes, sir. That's true. You know, and back when I loved all them hunts, you know, I would breed specific ways with dogs, and my dad did, and which well, I have the same old dogs. There's been no changes,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as competition hunt, I wouldn't trade it for a good day's hunt with a couple friends.
Oh no, I'm right there with you. I've been on some great competition hunts. Don't get me wrong, but I still think it's more fun to be out there with your good buddies that you know real well, just having a good time. Then
It is, and always try to tag a kid with you,
Mm-hmm.
because our next generation, some of them they need to know how to hunt and breed dogs and handle dogs.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Anything else significant stand out to you about your dogs?
They're a real protected dog.
Okay.
They don't. If you raise one by itself, they don't allow other dogs near you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same way with your vehicle. You
Okay.
haul that dog around with a vehicle and hunted with him, he won't allow other dogs around it. Unless with me, I've always trying to hunt with somebody else,
Yeah.
and and I want that because I want to introduce my dog between 4 and 7 months to other dogs
Mm-hmm.
to hunt. In case I want to go with a buddy hunting.
Yeah. So early socialization is absolutely key with them then.
Yes. But other than that, I mean, they hunt pretty much so like a mountain cur.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say any of my dogs are any better than any mountain curs, or any of the mountain curs are any better than my dogs. And a lot of that depends on the person that's hunting.
Oh, definitely. Handler error is huge.
Yes.
And I know that from personal experience because I've made plenty of errors, and my dogs reflected my errors.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I help a lot of people out with it, and I have the most I have to help people with is they giving a dog too much visual stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and when you do that, that dog he wants to hunt visual. He don't want to use all of his senses, which is his ears and nose and eyesight.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a lot of young people that we have to work with, with that
Yep. That was
to
me
make
when
sure they get their dog trained right.
my first dog. I was 18 years old and just wanting to, get this young dog started, and I showed her way too much caged game, and she reflected it.
I've seen them. I've seen them show them so much cage game that if you pick a trap up, an empty trap, and start walking with it, they come running to it.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time when you go that far with one, you've earned it.
Yep. Now, are your dogs? You said they hunt real similar to a mountain cur. So are they silent?
Yes, they're silent unless they're looking at what's in front of them.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought.
And I'm pretty sure a mountain cur, if the squirrel's in front of him 10 feet, he's gonna open up.
Yeah, I would say most dogs are gonna start barking if they can see it.
Yes, sir. And they do. My dogs drift trail. They don't put their nose to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And most all the hunts I've been to, I watched some mountain curs do the same thing. They didn't put their nose to the ground.
Mm-hmm. So very, very similar then in a lot of ways. Now, one thing I did notice is they tend to be a hair on the larger side. I mean, how big are your dogs typically?
My dogs, my average dogs the male dogs weigh about 65, and the females weigh close to 50.
Yeah.
I have some smaller, and I have some bigger.
Yeah.
But we throughout the years of breeding, my daddy wanted to breed a dog that was agile and could run all day, and hunt all day. And when you get past 75 pounds, a lot of those dogs are burnt out by dinner time.
Yeah.
That's a good way. I mean, that's what my daddy always said. If you get more than 80 pounds on you, you shorten the day's hunt with the dog.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I've seen it just in my, I've got a boxer mix here at the house who's a pet, but she's much bigger than my hounds, and not even in height. She's roughly the same height. She's just a lot stockier, and they run circles around her.
Oh yeah.
So
yes.
Now, since you've been doing this since basically your whole life, and you got your first dog that was yours at 7 years old.
I did, yes. That I could call my dog, yes, sir.
I'm sure you've got some good stories. I like good stories.
Got a bunch of them.
Well, why don't you share a few?
Well, we'll go back to the bear dog. We went one morning with him, and we treated a few squirrels, and like I said, he'd always bring the squirrel back to you. And I shot one out with a 410. Being a kid, I think that's all my daddy would let me have. But anyway, that squirrel hit the river, fell in the river, and old bear went in that river, and I thought to myself, oh boy, if I won't never see him again. And the river's name is Pearl River. It's a deep river.
Okay.
And about 30 minutes later, he come back with him in his mouth. I mean, he was soaking wet, and it was probably 40 degrees, 35 degrees. It's a pretty cold day, you know. And for a dog to do that, he's got to really be dead set to work well for his master.
Yeah.
I've had just about all of them after having that dog. Just about all of them that I've trained, I try to work with them to where they do retrieve.
Okay.
And I found a method with that with a young dog, and it's really easy. I've always kept me a few squirrel tails around, and I'd shoot a squirrel out, and the dog would catch him, and I'd get the dog's attention shaking that squirrel tail, and he would pick that squirrel up and bring it to me, really without knowing what he was doing, to get a hold of that squirrel that was in my hand.
Yep.
And after doing that 4 or 5 times with a good dog with good scent, he's gonna start automatically doing it when you call him back.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I've seen squirrel dogs that would retrieve squirrels, but I've never had one that did it. Or if they did, they would, eat the head off or something before you got them back, before they got it back to you.
Right. Yeah, a lot of young dogs will do that. We have, like I say, I got 200 acres here, and I had Rambo 2 and was working him, and we treed 4 or 5 squirrels with him and got way on the backside, shot a squirrel out, and he decided it was his. And he came all the way back to the kennel and kenneled up. And that can really be irritating when you're out hunting.
Mm-hmm.
You only have a couple of days to hunt a weekend, but that particular dog is actually where I learned to make him retrieve with a squirrel tail.
Okay.
And then shoot him out, and while he's going, when he goes to pick him up, get his attention real good, and he's gonna come back with it in his mind. You know, and that dog was awesome to work with. Actually, one of the coldest nosed dogs I've ever owned in the Cur dog family.
Now, do you have anything else besides Blackmouths?
My wife has clover bred hounds. She has a female and a male.
Okay.
And she was sort of brought up with those dogs. And the ones I have are very expensive dogs. It's not some of these you just pick up off of Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I had to order them. Ordered them out of Ohio. They don't have many of those dogs down south, you know.
Okay.
And they're good tree dogs. It's kind of funny, you know. We hunted those hounds as a puppy behind the cur dog, and those hounds hunt like a cur dog.
That's what I was going to say. Do they hunt like your cur dogs then?
They do. I mean, now that little old tip, if she gets on a coon now, she might go 800-900 yards and tree it. But as far as going out we squirrel hunting and coon hunting. Cool. But as far as going out squirrel hunting, she'll hunt in 300-yard circles, and when we're ready to go home, she's on a leash, ready to go.
Good deal.
Yes, sir. And there ain't many people can tell you that about a hound.
No. Most I would say don't hunt a 300-yard circle around you.
Yeah. I think a lot of it had to do with hunting them with these cur dogs.
Yeah, I would say probably.
I'll say one thing. They're the ones she's got are natural born tree dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Seen them pick up and tree at 4 and 5 months old on a squirrel.
It's always good.
Yes, sir. But I really don't get into the hounds. She wants to hunt them every once in a while. I'll go with her. My name's not on them.
No one can say that you've got hounds, huh?
Yes.
Now, when you hog hunt your dogs, Just this random thought popped in my head. Should have asked this earlier when we were talking about hog hunting. But do they tend to catch, or are they just straight bay dogs?
No, sir. I can. A cur dog's greedy, and when they bay, and I get there and start hollering catch, they're not going to catch like a bulldog right away. But what they'll do, they'll work that hog until they see a good open place without getting hurt, and they catch him.
Nice.
Yes, to say that about my dogs, I've seen those timber dogs do the same thing. But I don't hog hunt a whole lot. The hogs come in on my place when the farmers start planting around here, and when they do, I think I caught 17 last year.
That's
something
still a
like
fair
that.
amount of hogs.
That's
not really hog
That's
hunting.
the most I've ever caught. I do have a team of dogs that I use specifically for hog hunting.
Okay.
Yes, and one of them, my rebel dog, I actually had started him out coon hunting, and he was making a jam up dog. And one night we got on the hogs over there, and he decided he had still tree a coon, but he decided that hog hunting was his thing.
Yep.
And very easy to mess a dog up, and where you hunt, you can't help if you get on different game than what you're hunting. You can't help that. But dog's got blood in him to hunt, he's going to hunt. It don't matter what it is.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate your time. I mean, unless you got something else you want to say, I think you covered most of my questions.
Yes, I really don't, but I have really enjoyed talking to you.
I really appreciate you coming on here.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Have a good night.
You're welcome, sir, and you have a good night, too.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep 'em talking in the timber.